Well, welcome back to the Euroformula Open Championship, everybody. 2 rounds down, we're on the third. We're here at the legendary Spa-Francorchamps circuit at Belgium. The woods, the forest of Stavelot here, the Ardennes forest burning bright. We look to await the drivers to fly up through the Kemmel Straight. This circuit, 7.004 kilometers in length. That transponds to 4.352 miles, 20, or should we say 19 corners are currently laid out across this track, which the drivers will have to undertake. In terms of the temperatures, track temperature stands at 23.8 degrees with an air temperature of 15.1. And this is your grid that you've got lined up with Francesco Simonazzi on pole position. You might be wondering why. Well, Gerard Z received, unfortunately, a lap deletion from race control. Unfortunately, they deemed that he'd ventured off track to go fastest. But more about that in a moment. First of all, the highlights from our last trip to Hockenheim Ring, and it was a slow getaway from Brad Benavides as well as Paolo Brajnik further back, but taking full advantage was Levente Revesh heading in towards turn 1. Brad Benavides would eventually fight back, however, and take that on-track lead in race 1, but it wouldn't come easy. Levente Revesh would push him as hard as he could. Brad Benavides, however, would round the final corner and eventually take the checkered flag and victory once again in the Euroformula Open Championship, building upon the success he had back at Portimao. Race 2 got underway and Francesco Simonazzi led the way on that occasion. Fernando Barrichello losing out in that instance as well. Michael Shin in his debut, his maiden race that weekend as well, coming in and taking his place. Brad Benavides also making his way down the inside of Jakob Bergmeister in a bid to go back-to-back in terms of race wins. He wasn't able to do it though, because the Italian stallion Francesco Simonazzi would return back to the front of the order, a position he's getting oh so used to. First place in race 2. Then race 3 got underway, and it was Michael Shin who led right from the get-go. Simonazzi was hunting him down. Brad Benavides came toe-to-toe as well with Levente Revesh further back. We then saw more action as late on the brakes in came the 26 belonging to Jakob Bergmeister, who is certainly pulling off all the moves and gets better every single time. But on debut this season, Michael Shin came across the line to take victory. 3 different race winners across the Hockenheim weekend. And this is what the championship looks a little bit like now. Brad Benavides still at the top, 124 points. 15 points only separates he and Francesco Simonazzi. Levente Revesh in 3rd, Jakob Bergmeister in 4th, Lorenzo Flusha 5th, Fernando Barrichello in 6th, Michael Shin in 7th, and Paolo Brajnik in 8th place. So all the fans now watching on. They're going to be looking forward to a great race, and for good reason, because at the very front of the order, it's Francesco Simonazzi on pole position alongside Brad Benavides. Both the two at the top end of the championship on the front row. Levente Revesh in 3rd with Jakob Bergmeister starting in 4th. That's your row 2. Michael Shin in row 3 along with Gerard Z, who was provisionally on pole until he had his lap time deleted. Fernando Barrichello in 7th place with Paolo Brajnik starting at the tail of the field. So here we are, folks. We are here and now about to get underway here in round 3 of the Euroformula Open Championship. Francesco Simonazzi and Brad Benavides, a mouth-watering front row. Your commentary team, George Morgan and Ewan Dunlop. Ewan, it's a mouth-watering prospect. We have got the 2 championship rivals, contenders, at the top of the tree, and they're on the front row of the grid. Yeah, you can look at this and say, oh, there's only 8 cars, but there's so many things to look out for. Like you've just said, you've got the front row of the championship, Benavides and Simonazzi. That is a battle right there. Then you've got Michael Shin, who didn't compete at Portimao, but did get a win on debut at Hockenheim. If he'd competed at Portimao, he could be right up there as well. And then you've got Gerard Z, who was the fastest over the line in qualifying, class fastest car on track. However, track time deleted for track limits, and now starts in 6th. Expect him to try and fight his way through the field as well. So plenty to look out for. Bergmeister, Revesh, also plenty of podiums to their names so far this season. At the front, at least, it is highly, highly competitive. Yeah, and one to watch out for as well, Michael Shin. Currently starting P5, brilliant at Hockenheim last time around. he's got to have a chance, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he started from the front on pole and never looked like giving that away. He defended admirably the entire 35 minutes and rightfully got his first win of the season.
And not forgetting reverse quali, when that race rolls around, he'll be on the front row.
And that also means Gerard Z, although we start 6th now, it would have been pole, it will be pole in race number 2.
Quite right, as we now see them head in towards bus stop. Levente Ravesh in 3rd. You never know, he'll be hoping the front 2 get a rough getaway, in which case that he can just run on through. We'll wait and see whether he can do that. Francesco Simonetti, however, now has amassed 3 career Euroformula victories. It all started back at Red Bull Ring, like I alluded to in qualifying this morning, in that Parc Fermé decision where he was granted the race win. Of course, that would be the campaign that saw Ollie Goethe become champion that year. And I must say, ever since then, he has pushed onwards and now looking to come back this time around with a victory to his name. And I should say Noel Leone, incidentally, not Ollie Goethe. That was the year before. But Fernando Barrichello lining up onto the grid. Team Motor Park watching on expectantly, of course. They're all looking after these fantastic drivers that they have as part of their roster. Green flags now lit here at Spa, and all 5 lights will go out. And it's pedal to the metal, and it is go, 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 and it certainly isn't for Gerard Z. After having his time deleted, he stalled the car on the front straight, but immediately it's Francesco Simonetti who gets away well. Brad Benavides. Now, Gerard Z has managed to get away. The car is moving, so there we go. No concerns in terms of flags, but it's Simonetti who leads the way, heading through Rouge and Radion. Brad Benavides in 2nd place. Levente Ravesh hot on his heels in behind as well, closely followed by Jakob Bergmeister as they now head up through towards the Camel Straight. Simonetti goes defensive to the inside. Brad Benavides goes alongside him now. Wheel to wheel they'll run, heading up through towards Lake Com. The man for the United States, Brad Benavides, pushing him to his limits as now he takes the lead away from the Italian stallion. Coming through out of Lake Com, through Malmedy, it's Benavides in front.
Championship leader only took 3 turns to get his lead, and now Simonetti under pressure from Ravesh behind as well. What a disaster though for Gerard Z, after such a brilliant morning, having that time taken away, then failing to get away from the line. He has got so much work to do, and this might not be his race after all. But look at Benavides, that's why he's the championship leader, because he's got in front and now he's starting to move away.
Yeah, all the way from Florida. He's coming here to Spa, and he's just taken the lead away from Francesco Simonetti. 66 thousandths of a second between them now as they rush through in towards La Fanier chicane. And Fernando Barrichello watching everything unfold in front of him as well. Look at to pick his spot. In fact, he's looking so dangerous in behind the car that currently sits in front of him right now. That, of course, being Michael Shin, who's adopting that P5 position. But I will say, that blue and yellow livery is looking menacing on the back of Michael Shin right now as they come through the final sector here on the opening lap. Benavides now starting to open up that gap a little bit. Levente Ravesh is now a cause for concern, I would say, for Simonetti here, Ewan. He's looking dangerous as here comes Barrichello.
I think everybody would like to see Barrichello be competitive this week, and he has got through his man as well, up into 5th position. He's not had the championship he wanted on the outside of Simonetti. Simonetti down to 3rd as Ravesh pulls a great move on the outside of the chicane. Wow, what a move into 3rd place, and all this fighting behind them just lets Benavides continue to move away. Ravesh on the outside, Simonetti to the inside, round La Source and onto Eau Rouge in just a moment. Oh, only 8 cars, but what a race already through 2 laps.
Yeah, fantastic there from Francesco Simonetti, but just didn't pay off. Ravesh saw it all the way as then they come through Eau Rouge and Radion, and now it's the turn of young Jakob Bergmeister, German shifter car champion, who's going to retain the aero and the slipstream on the back of the BBM racing car. Giuseppe Mazzotti, who faced the prospects of a positive result in this race, now sees his driver Simonetti dropping down through the field. Bergmeister getting covered off by Levente Ravesh as well, as Simonetti might retain the inside. Bergmeister going deep though. Fantastic move from the young German, who now moves up into 3rd place. Simonetti now outside the podium.
Simonetti, this is not the start he wanted after starting on pole, and Barrichello is going to smell blood here. He's just had his best over move and take of the season so far, and he's got currently the man 2nd in the championship within touching distance in front.
Certainly does that. Fernando Barrichello, we saw him make his move earlier on Michael Shin. It was a great move as well, heading through Blanchimont, very daring, and especially during a high-speed section like that. Now this is where where it all began. Obviously, Levente Ravesh is getting in nice and deep, retaining that line on the outside of bus stop, and then on the escape, he had the Tiger line running through as well. In the background, we saw Barrichello making the move on Michael Shin, and this was the move that would eventually allow Levente Ravesh to move up into second. It was all happening.
You can't take your eyes off it, can you?
Oh, it's a pleasure to watch you, and honestly, this is why we love the Euroformula Open Championship, and a round of applause from the Motor Park Garage. They would have enjoyed that one. It is now the case that we have Motor Park occupying Ps1 and Ps2, with Jakob Bergmeister making it P3 for them as well. Simonazzi for BVM down in 4th place, but Barrichello is looming large in behind Simonazzi's car.
Yeah, Simonazzi will have his eyes in front and his eyes on his wing mirrors as well. Barrichello, he's not had the best season so far, but the talent is in there, as we can see right here. Again, second in the championship in front of him. You would never, if you're watching Euroformula for the first time here, you wouldn't be able to pick out who's first, second, third in the championship. They are so finely matched. The smallest of gaps now linking between Bergmeister and Simonazzi, as he's looking behind as well as forwards.
Yeah, twice the race winner in Brazilian F4 is Fernando Barrichello, and now looking to climb through Rouge and Radion, potentially also usurping Francesco Simonazzi. He's been a punching bag so far, has Francesco, and needs to try and dig deep and find something in order to at least getting a result this time around. Though, if there's one bit of positive news, I mean, if he does drop to P6, he will be on pole for the reverse race result later on. But that's surely not something he's going to want to cheer about. As now we see Barrichello with a look down the inside as well, firing the warning shots. Now, this is a statement of intent here from Fernando Barrichello. You can just see, race on race, improving every time, every bit of experience he grinds for in the car. It's now starting to come into fruition. It was a great move on Michael Shin. You might get a decent move on Simonazzi.
In race number 2 at Hockenheim, he was competitive until he had a spin coming into the stadium section. At that point, he was chasing the red motor parks as well. So we know it's in him. It's great to see him doing it right now.
It's purple in the first sector as well, off the back of the toe. I'd imagine that he managed to get off Simonazzi. So he's managed to achieve a 38.920 in that first sector. So not a bad job at all from Fernando Barrichello. And looking to potentially break into that top 4, which would certainly help in terms of a points position. Brad Benavides, though, despite all the battling that's happened in behind, hasn't managed to really fend off the approach from Levente Ravesh, because that gap has now shrunk, and Ravesh just posted the fastest second sector.
Yeah, it's been between about 0.6 and 0.9 of a second for the last 3 or 4 minutes or so, not going anywhere. Just keeping an eye on Gerard Z down in 8th place, of course. He is pulling time back, and he's lapping around about the same time as Bergmeister and Simonazzi. So we know for races 2 and 3, if he can get away, this would be a proper 8-car race instead of the 6 we're seeing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Running very wide there. Fernando Barrichello on the escape coming out of turn 19 as they now head in towards turn 1 with 10 laps to go. Got 3 down as they now head through out of the source. Power on up through towards Eau Rouge and Radion. It's still Brad Benavides trying to shake his tail feathers and also at the same time shake Levente Ravesh away. 6/10 has pretty much stuck right through over the last couple of laps. But I will say, if you want to look at last lap delta, 2 minute 12 for both Brad Benavides and Levente Ravesh. The difference, though, just over 4/10 difference between them. Ravesh being just over 4/10 faster, and he's benefiting off the back of the slipstream. I tell you what, there could be a battle for the lead here.
Now, his second race at Hockenheim, Brad Benavides was in the lead. Then he has mechanical issues and fell back to 5th. This is by no means what's happening right here, but the pressure all over his tail from Levente Ravesh. Ravesh so far this season does have 2 podiums to his name. He did have a 2nd place and a 3rd place at Hockenheim, so his season is getting better and better as we go through the rounds. Not had a win yet this season, but I think he can just about taste the podium top spot right now.
Yeah, I think he can, and has good reason as well. It might be the case that maybe the Brad Benavides might be doing some tyre saving, who knows. It's still early days in the course of this race. It's a long way to go. It's a long lap as well here at Spa, as we now take a look at the positions gained, positions lost, and Simonazzi losing 3. Obviously, the Barrichello actually going up 2 places. He could yet get the extra point for most places gained.
That would be super impressive, yeah. So you get 2 points for places gained, 1 point for a pole position, 1 point for a fastest lap, which currently stands with Ravesh, that 2:12.149. And yeah, that fastest lap, it's so much quicker than anybody else right now. It's incredible. Of course, he's got the entire lap in the tow of Benavides.
Yeah, it does have the benefits of slipstream to help him along, certainly up the Kemmel Straight, and this section as well will be a little handy as well, but there's going to come a time when the Hungarian looks to, well, benefit off the back of this and potentially open up the door on Brad Benavides all the way from the States, and could be in trouble as they head down in towards La Source again. And this time it looks like Revesh is a little closer than he was a lap ago, and will once again have the tow leading up the hill. Barrichello now rejoined by Michael Shin this time around, and Shin will have the run heading out of turn one this time around, so renew this fight as well as they venture with 9 laps to go up through Eau Rouge and Radion once again. You can see Jakob Bergmeister, I must say I've been very impressed with him too. His pace has been fantastic. Michael Shin back again as well, race victor back at Hockenheim Ring in the tail of one Fernando Barrichello. But look at the very front as well, because we got Levente Revesh who's on the attack as he now darts to the inside, tries to challenge Brad Benavides heading in towards Lake Com. They get in tight, Revesh digging deep, Brad Benavides defending as well as they now hurtle through towards Malmedy. Great chances all round here. Barrichello's lost a place and now has dropped down into 6th, with Michael Shin now taking in a lock-up from Revesh, who dug deep down the inside. Brad Benavides taking somewhat evasive action, maybe just saw it happen in his rearview mirror and kind of thought, well, listen, I don't want to get caught by you, mate, letting Revesh on through. Revesh now leads.
That is a dive for victory from Levente Revesh. What a move. Didn't get the first one done coming out of La Source or into the Kemmel Straight, but does get this one. Just this stuff. Look at the lock-up, and he still gets it done. Unbelievable move from Levente Revesh. Brad Benavides, championship leader, down to 2nd place and all the work to do, and they cheer in the pits.
Well, it almost looks like they witnessed the lock-up, and I think maybe it was more evasive action on Brad Benavides' part. Perhaps saw it happen in his wing mirror and kind of said, well, listen, I don't want to get tagged by you at this point. We've got a long race. We've got a whole 3 races to go. And, you know, naturally, you know, this is not the time to be involved in the collision. We saw similar things last season when Juju Noda came into contact with Josh Mason a couple of times. Unfortunately, eventually they did come together properly, and it took them both pretty much out of the race. But in this instance, obviously this time, Revesh locking up those tyres, Brad Benavides would have seen that and perhaps decided to back out of it as opposed to fight for the position. Probably a smart move in this instance, because he knows he'll have a chance up the straight, and he's certainly not too far away from Revesh.
The lock-up's going to have a detrimental impact on those tyres too. Brad Benavides will be very aware of that. So this race could be back and forth, hammer and tongs, for the next 8 laps. And let's not forget, you can't forget about Jakob Bergmeister, watching all of this from behind, just making notes as they go around lap after lap. Easy looking for potentially a late dive in, like his teammate Revesh as well.
Who knows? I'll tell you what, he's watching everything. He's got the best seat in the house. And look at Brad Benavides this time around. He's going to answer back against the approach of Levente Revesh. But what about Bergmeister in behind, who I'm sure will fancy a go in his own right as they head up in towards Lake Com. Doesn't go for it this time, but Brad Benavides will retake the lead of the race here at Spa. 8 laps to go, and Bergmeister's in the fight.
This is utterly brilliant. Off he goes. Is that Bergmeister or Revesh?
It's Revesh. Revesh had made it into the gravel trap, and that opened the door, and Bergmeister just swanned on through to take 2nd place away. A huge mistake from Levente Revesh through Malmedy. Went into the gravel trap, and Bergmeister takes full advantage.
And this is all Bergmeister needs to do. Wait and watch, wait for the mistakes. There's one, took it straight away into 2nd. He could go away and win this one.
He could well do. This is the replay. Revesh just going in too deep through Malmedy, and Bergmeister was ready to respond. Did very well, obviously, knew it was coming. Fantastic reactions from Jakob Bergmeister, and now takes 2nd place.
And Simonazzi's back in the fight here as well on the tail of Revesh. Benavides just getting away ever so slightly, and a 1-second lead for Benavides. That's the biggest lead we've had at the front of this race, and in the opening 5 laps. That's how tight things have been, and they are now starting just to elongate ever so slightly, but Simonazzi will want a little bit of revenge here.
Yeah, must say, I caught up with Jakob Bergmeister earlier on in the weekend, and he looked in a chipper mood, I must say, and for good reason. I must say, this is going to be a fantastic result for him. Easily, I think, one of the best performances I've seen him usher in so far this campaign, and definitely in his Euroformula campaign. Simonazzi might have a chance here, because knowing that Revesh has gone into the gravel trap, this could be advantage Simonazzi for a podium here.
Absolutely could be. Could be any way of 4 right now. I think a little bit too much work to do for Michael Shin and Fernando Barrichello, but they're having their little battle behind for fifths and thicks right now. Gerard Z does move into some of these, gone past Paolo Brajnik in the latter stages of the race. Still 20 seconds behind our leader, so let's concentrate on the front. Here's the battle then. Levente Ravesh holding off Francesco Simonazzi right now, and he's getting ever so close as they come up past Kemmel.
And they're going to run up towards Kemmel. Simonazzi onto the grass, and that will certainly upset the momentum, and I'd imagine there's a few expletives being said or rushing in the BVM cockpit right now. Simonazzi, unfortunately, just diverting into the grass. The gap did close up somewhat. We'll have to wait and see what the stewards make of that one, but I must say, coming through that segment, let's take a look at it again. Coming up towards Kemmel, a squeeze from Levente Ravesh. Coming up the Kemmel straight. It
was a bit of both, wasn't it? There is a warning flag for Simonazzi right now. Track limits at turn 10 and turn number 19, so he's just got to be a little bit careful on that fight. Of course, he's going to be pushing everything he can, but possibly out to that Dallara 322-litre engine. And we're already halfway, George.
Plenty more to come. And can I just say as well, Jakob Bergmeister's closed the gap, and he's now only 6/10 away from our race leader. Remember, that gap was a second, only a lap or two ago. It is now down to 6/10, and Jakob Bergmeister, in what could be his proudest moment here in single-seater racing, to take victory in the Euroformula Open Championship, beating a former F2, F3 driver who has also taken multiple race wins this season. I tell you, what a statement to make for this young German shifter car champion.
Jakob Bergmeister's result so far this season: fifth, third, fourth, yet to be on the top 2 steps. He's all over the back of Brad Benavides, and he's building a gap to his teammate Levente Ravesh behind him as well.
Yeah, he's looking so good and primed, and I must say, taking a really nice line at a bus stop as well. There's a great deal of confidence around Jakob Bergmeister here at this stage, but Brad Benavides has also driven brilliantly in this race alike as well. Levente Ravesh in 3rd spot, still trying to fend off the approach from Francesco Simonazzi. Fernando Barrichello in his fight with Michael Shin still, and that is a battle over 5th place in this timing tower as they now head up the hill, up through Eau Rouge and Radion. It's Brad Benavides who leads the way. Jakob Bergmeister, who still remains within a second, has lost 0.3 of a second here in this initial, but still remains within a second. If he can get in the slip, there is still a chance he can close that gap right back up. And it might be the case that he might just be managing the car at the same time, because if you stay behind the car in front, engine overheats.
This is the great thing about Euroformula. In front of the screen now, 3 races going on with 6 cars. There's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th and 6th. Let's not forget about any of them at all. Of course, the one at the top, we're going for the win. Incident involving cars 11 and 84. That's Ravesh and Simonazzi. Oh, that's the incident on the grass, isn't it? Yeah. I didn't make too much of that. It was a racing incident, a little bit of a squeeze, but nothing too untoward, I don't think.
Well, we'll have to wait and see what the stewards say. I'm sure Simonazzi has his own feelings about the matter. We'll wait and see what the stewards think later on. But the race still continues. 6 laps to go. They're in the middle sector right now. And Brad Benavides still out in front. Bergmeister has once again started dipping into that delta, 0.7 of a second on the last lap. In fact, if you want to look at the times, the gap is separated by 29 thousandths between Benavides and Bergmeister. They're nearly matching toe for toe.
And there are, as they push towards the end, there are track limits warnings all over the place. Too many to bring you. And just going back to that incident, of course, we've only got one angle straight on. We can't tell if the car was halfway alongside. The marshals, they'll look at the onboard visions and see what's going on there. So we'll leave that entirely in their very capable hands, our race directors.
Yeah, into the bus stop they go once again, and Brad Benavides will be counting down the laps as they come. Doesn't want to forfeit this lead advantage. Another race win would mean a lot to him. Obviously coming into this weekend, bidding to be a 3-time race winner in the Euroformula Open Championship and actually match with Francesco Simonazzi. But as they head out of turn 1, at La Source, and now beckoning their way up the hill through Eau Rouge and Radion. Jakob Bergmeister, say what you want about this race so far. Say, well, he didn't win it. Doesn't matter in my eyes. It's been a tremendous performance on part of this young man. Took every advantage, took every opportunity that was laid out in front of him, but it's still far from over. 1.2 seconds could yet be brought straight back down, and he's done it before. And as they now make their way up the hill again this time, Simonazzi once again getting closer to Levente Revesh. That battle far from over. Barrichello still hunting after Michael Shin as they now head through Lake Com, through Malmedy once again. 5 laps to go here, Ewan.
Now, just looking at the stats here as well, with Bergmeister already at the moment on track to get his best ever finish, he would also, by my maths, get 2 extra points for the championship for most places gained after starting 4th and now being in 2nd place. Look at the difference in times here from Revesh and Simonazzi. 2 seconds a few laps ago, and they are, well, not quite side by side, but Simonazzi will not be giving up the fight at all.
I do wonder if that was an instant response to Revesh's trip into the gravel trap. It's just taking him a while to get the, I suppose, the dust off them at the same time, the stones that would have ventured out onto the circuit at Malmedy, but he's done well to keep on persevering. And Simonazzi in his own right would have had to challenge, well, certainly could try and carry out the rest of the race, given the fact that he's got grass on his tyres as well, and at the same time that can slick things up a little bit, and also at the same time cool down the rubber quite quickly. At the same time too, but a personal best in the first sector for Simonazzi on this lap certainly shows that he's got pace in his BVM car, so it's not over yet on his part.
Yeah, 0.3 of a second quicker than the man he's chasing, Levente Revesh. He'll need a few more of those, got 5 more laps to play with. We've seen fantastic overtaking opportunities all the way around the track, really. Some tracks you've got 1 or 2 places where you can overtake. Spa, not the case. 19 corners around this 7-kilometre circuit. Plenty of paces to the business. And now 1.5 seconds Benavides over Bergmeister. That's the biggest lead we've seen so far in this race.
It certainly is. Benavides did launch out to a second earlier on, but Bergmeister did well to rein it back into 0.6 of a second, but this time it's well surpassed any of that. It's now 1.5 as they come over the crest up towards the long straight at Kemmel. The AIX livery, of course, being donned by Brad Benavides, something we've seen already at Motor Park, given the fact that Marcos Seibert and Diego Benchaca are utilising the same livery alike, only in GT3 racing. Benavides heading through in towards Lake Com, this time with Jakob Bergmeister still hot on his heels in behind. And let me just say as well, he's managed to rein that delta back in by 0.2 of a second, so it's not over for Jakob. I mean, it might be the case he might have just backed off over the last few laps, and if you take a look at the last lap alone, it was only 0.3 that really separated them.
That's exactly what I was just thinking. Jakob Bergmeister, what's he thinking right now? Is it, do you know what, 2nd is great, that's progress in the season, my best ever finish right now. I don't need to catch Brad Benavides, and if I do, am I running the risk of maybe dropping my 2nd place as well? Either way, fantastic race for him wherever he finishes, but 2nd place would be his best finish of the season.
Certainly will. 5 podiums already to his name, Jakob Bergmeister, in his Euroformula Open campaign, or in his career anyway in this championship. 22 starts, this is his 23rd, and one of the longest serving drivers in this championship. But Bergmeister, someone who's going to be looking for more, that's for sure, as they now head through this next left-hander. Still at this stage, Brad Benavides in control. And, of course, being part of F2 and F3, has done every single championship pretty much on the lead up towards Formula 1. Just here and there, big squill of the tyres as he puts the brakes on, heading through the bus stop chicane. In behind as well, Jakob Bergmeister, as we're seeing on screen, familiar blue helmet. He is donned now for quite some time, even from last season into this campaign alike as well. Gap now enlarged to 1.6 with 3 laps to go here. Benavides still in front. Bergmeister will still claim those 2 additional points for most positions gained.
And here's that lock-up into the final chicane before the start-finish straight. Just went pretty deep in there, but it's going to lose him maybe a couple of tenths of a second at absolute most. So Brad Benavides, leader in the race, leader in the championship, and up until Hockenheim race number 3 a couple of weekends ago, he'd not been outside of the top 2. He'd gone second, first, second, first, second. let's skip race 3 at Hockenheim. They're going to be back on the top step of the podium and extend that current 15-point lead of Francesco Simonazzi, who is, sadly for him, still down in 4th after starting on pole, not to the start to the weekend he wanted in terms of racing.
Yeah, he seemed to drop off quite dramatically from the start of the race, just did not go to plan. And remember as well, we haven't factored in Gerard Z. I mean, of course, he was fastest on track earlier on. Now, I can tell you that the incident involving cars 11 and 84, that of course being Revesh and Simonazzi, is going to be investigated after the race. So the stewards, as we said before, we're investigating. It's now going to be discussed and no doubt looked at after this race has finished.
Yeah,
so
I think that may be decided on inboard footage. Our angle wasn't fantastic. We just sort of subjectively looked at it as it came across. And 3 laps remaining then, and 1, 2, 3 right now looking pretty locked in. Despite anything sort of untoward happening in the last 5-6 minutes of this race. Benavides, Bergmeister and Revesh. Simonazzi going to be dropping points in the chase of the American in the championship.
yeah, heading through towards Blanchimont now, and can Bergmeister bring this one home? Of course, it'll be a Euroformula career best for him. Should he achieve that? Laventia Revesh has managed to enlarge the gap between he and Francesco Simonazzi right now, but remember that steward's note is still out there, so both drivers are going to have to, no doubt, supply their camera footage for it to be assessed, and I'm sure then the stewards will make the right call based on the evidence that's placed in front of them. But still, no less, it's been a phenomenal race. The start of it was truly fantastic, and Fernando Barrichello getting right up close and personal with Michael Shin as well. Still work to do for Fernando Barrichello, but there's definitely been some positive notes to take from today's race, as now we see them come through towards Camel once again. At the top of the order, Brad Benavides, the gap now 1.8, nearly 1.9 between the pair as they head up through towards Lecom. And truly is a masterful performance from Benavides, who is utilising, as I said, all his experience once again here this time in the Euroformula Open Championship, and heading down in towards Rivage yet again here with 2 laps to go, advancing his charge, no doubt, in the championship.
Just keeping an eye on Gerard Z here, of course, at the back, or one for the back, Brashnik in 8th spot right now after his failed to get away from the line, but he is lapping very competitively. His last lap was quicker than both Bergmeister and Revesh, and his fastest lap of the race, only a couple of tenths behind Brad Benavides, your race leader. Now, because of the result of this race, unfortunately, Gerard Z, unless he can get past Barrichello, is going to start in 7th, because the top 6 reverse at the start of the next race. So he's going to have a challenge on his hands again, but if he can get away, looking to be competitive.
Yeah, but he does have reverse quali pole later on though as well, so he does have an opportunity to score some big points in that race. You'll want to take full advantage of that, because you're absolutely spot on. He will be starting from 7th come race time tomorrow, in fact, as we now watch the cars head through in towards the bus stop chicane once again. Brad Benavides will take them around and across the line here this time, and the gap started to enlarge and some more. It's out to 2 seconds now as they venture onto the final lap of the race. Brad Benavides will take them through La Source for the final time here in race 1, and Jakob Bergmeister will follow him. Laventia Revesh in 3rd.
Yeah, absolutely right, George. And if you're a Euroformula fan wondering what do you mean his second race tomorrow, so race number 2 was meant to be the last race today, but because we had about an hour's worth of red flags earlier on this afternoon, but race number 2 and 3 are both going to be tomorrow for the Euroformula.
Yeah, certainly will. Heading up the hill for the final time in race 1 action. They still have 2 races tomorrow, as we've so rightly said, to venture around this track once again. More points on the table, but Brad Benavides really unlocking the full power and potential and his raw ability to certainly pilot one of these cars. And after a sensational visit back at Portimao that would open up his account in single-seater racing, he said it himself, his first single-seater race win in his career back at Portimao, and he has not looked back. He took another one at Hockenheim alike, and he's going to look to try and level the stats between he and Francesco Simonazzi and make it a triple dream in this series, coming through Pouon this time around. He'll then be adventured through towards the Lafanier chicane, and after competing in the various championships that he has been in against many of the drivers he would have met through the course of his career, now getting a chance to rub shoulders with the new crops of talent here in the Euroformula Open Championship, including the likes of Jakob Bergmeister, Levente Ravesh, who of course had time in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, Francesco Simonazzi, who's been in this series now for a few years and has obviously come through from the likes of Italian F4, Michael Shin, who has also done it all as well. If we consider his stats, also a former F3 driver competing in the Formula Regional Oceania Championship in 2024. But Brad Benavides looking to join fellow drivers such as Nolio, Ollie Goethe, Louis Foster, as well as Lucas Dunner, Yi Yifei, as well as Felipe Drugovich, Rino Sato as well, registering himself as a race winner here at Spa-Francorchamps, and it's going to be Francesco Simonazzi who will come across the line in 4th place, just barely ahead this time of Michael Shin. It got close between them. 2nd place went to Jakob Bergmeister, his best result of his career in the Euroformula Open, and Levente Ravesh finishing in 3rd.
Absolutely, what a show from Euroformula. Despite 8 cars, what a race it was from absolutely start to finish. Battles from the front of the grid right to the back. We've still got Gerard Z to come in our next 2 races as well. They will be tomorrow, not later on this afternoon as originally planned. But what a start to the weekend for the Euroformulas. Yeah,
it certainly was. A very busy race at the very start where the lead was swapped a few times. Then on top of that, big battles for the podiums across the board as well. But coming into Parc Fermé, I'm sure it'll be elation for Brad Benavides, making it victory number 3 in his Euroformula Open career. And I mean, if we take a look back at the history of drivers that have competed in the championship, certainly in recent years, I mean, when Oliver Goethe won back in 2022, he won all 3 races at this very weekend. Louis Foster did exactly the same the year prior. Marino Sato also went back-to-back in 2019. Felipe Drugovich as well. Vitor Baptista doing exactly the same in 2015, as well as Sami Stuvik in 2014. So next on his list will be race 2. He's going to want to emulate the successes of those prior, but it's going to be that much harder, especially considering it will be a reverse grid when we go to reverse race action tomorrow. So he will have to make some moves all the way from P6 on the grid. But he can enjoy this one, at least for now. And on top of that, also remember, he was on the front row of the grid alongside Francesco Simonazzi. And as a result, we'll be starting on the same row as that P6, be on the 3rd row of the grid, ahead of that reverse quali race as well. And love hearts there from Brad Benavides. He is your winner here in the Euroformula Open Championship. Jakob Bergmeister finishing in 2nd place. Levente Ravesh finishing in 3rd with Francesco Simonazzi in 4th. Michael Shin in 5th. Fernando Barrichello finishing in 6th. Gerard Z after that slow getaway off the line finishing in 7th. Paolo Brajnik would also then finish in 8th. This is the Drivers' Championship now. Brad Benavides has now got a cushion between he and Simonazzi. 27 points between them, 149 is the lead. And Jakob Bergmeister in 3rd after some good points obtained from him. Levente Ravesh in 4th. Fernando Barrichello, Lorenzo Flusha, Michael Shin, Paolo Brajnik, Gerard Z on 6 points. So there we go, as he now weighs in post-race in Parc Fermé. His smile says it all. Brad Benavides has every reason to be delighted. Levente Ravesh coming home in 3rd, though remember that decision has got to be reviewed post-race between he and Francesco Simonazzi. Jakob Bergmeister, career best in the Euroformula Open Championship to take 2nd, one of his best drives to date. And right at the top of the tree, the Floridian of force here at Spa, Brad Benavides, victor here, and he's with Alfredo Filipponi.
Brad Benavides, a new victory, but this one was, you had to work more for that.
Yeah, most definitely. I slightly had to work a little bit more for this one, but really happy as it's my 3rd race win of the championship so far, and especially happy to be able to do it here in my favorite track. So yeah, really happy.
Yeah, Spa is really different, right?
Yeah, it's a lot trickier, let's say, to pull a gap because of the slipstream in the draft. and so it's more about how competitive you can be in the racecraft side of things. And I think we were able to stay calm and put it together to keep the P1. So yeah.
Good. Time to enjoy the moment.
So Brad Benavides, your victor. And let's see how he did it. Here are the highlights from race 1 here at Spa-Francorchamps. It was a great getaway from Francesco Simonazzi. Not so great, though, for Gerard Z in the background. As you can see, just stalling on the grid when the lights went out. And unfortunately, would get away later on, but he had a huge gap to fight later on. Simonazzi and Brad Benavides would come together on the run-up through towards Les Combes. Brad Benavides hanging it around the outside of the Italian stallion. Simonazzi had to remain behind in second place and was then well, he was very much a punching bag for the cars in behind, because Laventia Revesh would also go on the hunt, looking for that P2 spot against the Italian. Managed to hang around the outside again, took the Tiger line through the inset on the turn 19 section of the bus stop chicane to then remove P2 away from him. Jakob Bergmeister then also came into the mix. Laventia Revesh covering off Bergmeister, who was trying to get past Simonazzi. Regardless, though, however, it would prove fruitful for Bergmeister, who moved into third as a consequence. Revesh took the lead, but through very dramatic circumstances, a lock-up through Rivage, of course, evasive action there on part of Brad Benavides to then be dropped back into P2. He would have his chance, though, to retake P1, remaining in the slipstream of Laventia Revesh, heading through on the next lap, coming through Les Combes, and did take it back. Revesh, the Hungarian, had Bergmeister hovering all over his back, and eventually Bergmeister would take his second place away. It would be, though, Brad Benavides, your victor here at Spa-Francorchamps, and that's his third race win of his career so far in Euroformula. So here we are on the podium, and third place, as you can see, Laventia Revesh, Jakob Bergmeister standing tall, and a big smile on his face. No surprises. Brad Benavides on the top step. Fernando Barrichello, the rookie winner, coming home as well in sixth place overall. He will have pole for the reverse race result tomorrow. And the Motorpark team celebrating as well with all 4 drivers on the podium. And we will have the national anthem for the United States.
For the trophies, we will call Jesus Pereira, Director of Sport.
So there we are. Brad Benavides, your winner after a tremendous drive. Ewan, he was certainly stellar, was he not? I mean, I must say, a courageous performance from Jakob Bergmeister, first and foremost, but Brad Benavides, his experience coming through. I think he was handed the wrong trophy. I think at that point they gave him the P3 one.
I'm just checking what number's on that?
Jesus Pereira, just double checking them, because you know, who knows, that maybe they've been incorrectly marked, but second place for Jakob Bergmeister.
I mean, if there was a vote for driver of the day, Jakob Bergmeister wins. But in terms of racing, Benavides, he had to work hard. It's his third win. That's easily the one he's had to work the hardest most to. When he said it himself, he said it's his favourite track, and doesn't that show? He will have a disadvantage, of course, in race number 2. He will be starting from 6th place on the grid. Bad for him. Great for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we're going to be in for a real fight. Someone who will be starting on pole will be Fernando Barrichello tomorrow for the race result, because he finished P6, and you know, he'll be looking to try and fight and maybe in his own right get himself a decent podium finish later on. We'll have to wait and see. Motorpark yet again laying claim to another victory themselves. They've done so well in recent years and have brought together 3 drivers well, more than that, in fact, over the last 5 seasons. They've brought together 5 champions. If you consider the likes of Marino Sato, Cameron Dass, Oliver Goethe, Noel Leon, Yi Yufei, of course, you can make it 5 out of 5 if you include Crypto Tower. But that is the celebrations, folks. Brad Benavides, your victor, but we've got 2 more races to bring you this weekend. We'll see you tomorrow for them.